It's the 13th of February. 2017. We're streaming, live stream, Beautiful Girl by Dana on YouTube. And it's horror story after horror story from the Pacific Ocean. Good morning, everybody, if that's possible. We're kind of like in this whirl of disbelief. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants to talk about it in realistic terms. Everybody wants to live in a fantasy. Everybody wants to pretend that the truth is irrelevant. Let's just talk about... Can't see anybody. Ma, did you leave the gate open? Freaking zombies are in here. Damn it. Get out of here, you damn zombies. We all just want to live in just this little fantasy world, sit around the campfire. Sit around the campfire and just enjoy the day as is like no other day. Just pretend, get out your marshmallows and roast up. Meanwhile, chaos is gonna bust the shit out of everything. And we don't even blink or think or worry about it. We're like friggin' dinosaurs. I ain't scared of you, you big mean-looking dinosaurs. Get the freak out of here. What are you doing that for? Stop scaring everybody, you big friggin' bullies. That is the way of the world. It's full of bullies and weirdos and creeps. Everybody wants to live in a friggin' fantasy. No one wants to talk about the reality. The reality is much more frightening than what we think of reality. We think we can just go in and smash up the reactors in Japan and it's no big deal. But in reality, we can't, and we burn $1 billion a year. And there's side effects from all of this, trust me. There's side effects, and they go away along with us and everything else. When we're gone, the side effects will go away from nuclear meltdowns. Let me find something that doesn't sound too crazy. Now, let me put this into perspective for everybody. What is a pilot whale? Like a pilot whale. Just forget popular science for 1 second. But what's a pilot whale? What's a pilot? Somebody who mastered a navigation, yeah? This is why we call these whales pilot whales, because they're masters of navigation. It's not because we thought it was a pretty name. Just give them a pretty name. No, we gave them an appropriate name because they are able to pilot in the weirdest places. And why do you say these mass strandings happen all the time? This is ludicrous. And the headlines, if you go look for it, is 2015, 2014, 2013, 2012, and then a 2010 with a dozen. And when there was lots of whales, there would be lots of weird events happening. The military was out there doing stuff. That was what we were told over and over and over again. But what we are seeing, when we see groups like Popular Science, which is junk. This is junk. And everything they write is junk. Ludicrous junk. It's meant to suck you in. It's been bought and sold, bought and sold, bought and sold. And it's owned by public relation firms. And they utilize it as a tool to people who don't know any better. But I come from a place where pilot whales were captured, killed, and used for the first industry in Newfoundland and Labrador, which was killing pilot whales and using it for mink, for food for minks, a mink farm, so you can have mink jackets for the elites. Yeah? And so they would go out in little dories and bang pots and pans and underwater and drive the whales up on the beach. And they were so good at it. Like, I dove on these graveyards. I was a commercial diver, 14,000 hours underwater. I've done most industries and boat oceans here in Canada on top of that. And at one point had 30,000 hooks, 120 gill nets. So I know a thing or two. And we've also done the expeditions along the coastline of British Columbia in the last couple of years. And we documented all of that and put it up at the nuclearproctologist.org. What we're studying is Fukushima fallout. Now, this story is important because in just a short span, you have 600 whales came ashore. These are extraordinary numbers. No matter where it's to, this is an event. And it might have happened before, but it's still an event. Now, the odds of one whale coming ashore and two whales coming ashore in the same spot are astronomical. This is being now saying, oh, well, they're family, Dana, and they all run up on the beach and kill themselves to help their family members because they're stupid whales. No, they're not stupid. They're pilot whales. They're very astute. They're very intelligent. I come from a place that lived with the whales. I grew up in that environment. I know the way of that world. And we have transitioned into this world where that world doesn't exist per se, but yet I have lived and experienced that world. And so I am not somebody you can fool with a slick headline and just come out and pretend that it's not a factor, that there's no connotations. We see the mass die-offs. The normal question is, did they starve to death? Instead, we're being told that the sick old will go up on the beach. So 600 whales were sick? No, Dana, they followed the sick one up on the beach. Yeah, but I come from a history of the ocean where I've never seen that. This is not something you can prove. This is a conjecture. I can prove because I've never seen it and I've been through boat oceans extensively and recently relentlessly. Remember what I done. These Arles in British Columbia, Canada is where I took my boat in the last couple of years and done 260 days and 15,000 miles, and that we show an extinction event in the Pacific Ocean that spilled over into New Zealand and Australia. They're the Pacific Ocean. They're just the same distance from Japan as we are. They're right across from the edge of the continent in perspectives of Japan. They're right in harm's way. And what we showed was a 100% unequivocal extinction event. Now, what you're seeing is the reason why
believe one of the orcas that calls Washington waters home has died, and now her calf is in danger.
Why the orca whales are all starving to death.
Reports this latest loss.
I'll tie it together for you soon.
As few as 80 whales.
Now,
Washington's orcas belong to families. Scientists call them pods, and those pods have letters J, K, and L. And this is J-Pod and Happier Times, as seen from Sky King swimming in the San Juans a few years ago. Like highly visible fingerprints, orcas are easily identified by the distinctive patterns on their backs, referred to as saddle patches. And this month, a key member of J-Pod seemed to disappear. And it's not the first loss this year.
Well, I am alarmed. I've seen the necropsy reports from J32.
Ken Balcom has studied these whales, including their ability to reproduce, for decades. He's with the Center for Whale Research.
This is far more sinister, where we're losing reproductive females and their babies. You know, when you don't reproduce anymore, you don't have a population.
The news, while not confirmed by a carcass, might as well be. This is the last picture of J28 taken by Balcom on October 2nd, along with her youngest calf, J54, a male. He says the whales are emaciated, underweight, underfed.
Emaciated. Killer whales, emaciated. Run that through your mind again, because they can eat halibut, they can eat octopus, they can eat anything they want, and they do. They can eat birds, and they do. They can eat otters, they do. They can eat dolphins, they do. They can eat, and they do, whatever they want. Now, it's impossible for these guys to starve to death. But yet, there it is, all of them, starving to death and dying off. This is 500,000 birds.
Now, scientists say as many as 500,000 murres died. The most recent in mid.
Now, a murre can dive 600 feet. 600 feet.
February, up to 8,000 showed up on the shores of Lake Iliamna.
And what happened?
They're common murres that showed up on the
they starved to death.
Scientists say the die-off has slowed.
These birds were probably likely following the Kinnick River.
But research into what caused it is going full speed.
And many of the birds, when we perform the necropsies, they actually have
didn't slow.
empty stomachs, so we're not finding any food.
They had empty stomachs. They didn't find any food. This has been established over and over. Last year, right across from New Zealand, in Chile, is 337 whales died. Now, the whales and another 200 in New Zealand beach a couple of years ago, thousands of birds abandoning their nest. We see seal pups starved and emaciated showing up in the communities. There's nothing on the shoreline to eat. There's zero life on the shoreline for the birds to eat. There's just a couple of algae left out of the 7,000 species you would expect to find there. We went out and done the whole coastline. The pictures behind me are the ones I took. And it's an extinction event. The species will never come back. The ocean is dying. And the Pacific Ocean, I know this is going to be a shock to everybody, but it extends all the way to New Zealand and Australia. Yeah? Is that a shock to you? Because you got to realize what happened. Let's have a look at what really happened. We had all these melted reactors in Japan. This was an event. So a melted reactor, this is a model from NOAA showing the dispersal. But a melted reactor is worse than plastic and oil and pharmaceuticals and pollution because they don't what you call have energy and emit. Where the radioactive material coming out of Japan, this is a 40-day model from NOAA, and I'll show you the headlines coming up. But you can see the modeling, it's slowly over 40, we're going to speed this up just for time constraints. And now this is only based upon a couple of days releases from a single reactor. But we have headlines where radioactive substances rose 5 kilometers into the air and carried by jet streams, because the jet streams are actually real, to US and Europe. But of course New Zealand got pounded. Their food supply got taken out. That's why the whales are doing what they're doing. There was non-interrupted line, non-stop. It never stopped coming out of the reactors. Right? This is what it looked like. This is Canada. Above me is the east coast of Canada. Over there is the west coast of Canada and United States. This is the east coast of Canada, United States. This is the plume from Japan, but a Norwegian Institute for Air Research. It's only based upon a couple of days releases from a single reactor. Now, we know these models are based upon the same models they use for air pollution in the Trans-Pacific corridors. Erasive air pollution. See all these studies. You can go and read them yourself. Elsevier, Springer, Wiley, 3 of the biggest publishers. They actually own 20,000 academic journals. And so you can find all these, and a lot of it's, you can read the abstracts. North America received a large fallout. incredible increases in cancer expected. Japan had 860,000 excess cancers. Let's find some headlines. Now, these models, like the Northern Hemisphere, that's a fake model. Yeah? Here's a real model.
Simulation shows how radioactivity is spread around the world from the disabled Fukushima Daiichi plant. The simulation was created by a group of researchers at the University of Tokyo and Kyushu University and released on Wednesday. The simulation is based on the scenario in which contaminated air was vented from the disabled number 2 reactor building on March 14th, 3 days after the massive earthquake and tsunami. Computer images showed the radioactive material was lifted 5,000 meters into the air. It was then carried by westerly winds and spread over the Pacific Ocean. The images indicate that on the 4th day after being vented, the substances reached the west coast of the United States, and on the 7th day, they approached Iceland after crossing the Atlantic. The radiation was down to 1 billionth level compared to when it was emitted on March 14th.
Okay, and so what you're talking about... What you're talking about... I'll turn that down a little notch for everybody. Okay, here we go. Let's keep going. Now, we know when you put stuff up in the jet stream, like the fire balloons, which was weapons, that they come in and they attack within days all of these different places, Canada, Mexico, Iowa, Dakota. The jet streams blew at an altitude, blah, blah, blah. We know all this exists. We know trans-Pacific radioactive dispersal by universities in Japan, by Japan's university. No, you're a lawyer, Dana. You're making it up, Dana. It's bullshit, Dana. Not true, Dana. It's not real, Dana. So look at the model. It never stopped coming out. It spans the entire Pacific, including New Zealand, including Australia. But it also spans the entire continents. We had an event. It wasn't just one reactor. We know how the trans-Pacific air pollution works. So therefore, we have to carry weight with these models, not just because they're from the major shakers and movers and institutions, but because it's the moral and ethical thing to do. We know Canada went out and modeled it. Here's Canada's model. You can come back and stop the frame and read through it after. But they went out and took 15-minute samples and showed that it updated the entire coastline of Canada, but never warned anybody. And that's all you could do was warn, but it would have been enough to keep them indoors when the big brunt was coming through. But it never stopped coming out. So rather than do the job that we gave them and tell us and warn us when the danger came through was coming, they said, to hell with it, we're not going to tell the Canadians. And they've done the same thing in New Zealand and Australia, but we're right across from it. So we should have been warned heavily, endlessly. You have Swiss bureaus out making models. It doesn't matter how many models I show you, unless you're told about this all the time, you're never going to find it. Your media is not going to tell you about it, per se. They're not going to come out and drive the points home that it never stopped coming out. Contaminated and killed off all the bases of the food chain, and now the mass die-offs and starvations are because of that. Sorry. Fukushima fallout, that was game over. You had to dig up all the topsoil in Florida, just like the 30 million bags in Japan. That's what that means. Let's keep going. And it's so important that we talk about these mass die-offs that we're seeing showing up everywhere. All the animals are starving and emaciated. It's just, you see healthy polar bears go to emaciated polar bears. We see all the birds. All of these animals are starving to death. You think those polar bears are not starving to death? The die-offs of birds, 500,000. There was 5 million birds starved to death a few years back in New Zealand. Right? So in that very same spot. Yeah, but don't tell anybody, Dana, because we'll come in and bug and shoot you up. Don't get people excited, because the robots are going to come in here and sort all you troublemakers out. It's all just, you know, right? Look what happened to me. I came out to warn everybody, and they came after me. They took me out, right? I'm still here, but they came out. They freaked out. They arrested me. They demonized me in all the mainstream media. They made a big circus out of it. Then they executed me in the last couple of months through the court systems. 15 ferries. 15 hotel rooms. They bankrupted me because I don't have nothing. Coming up with that money to make it there all the time, they bankrupted all my... They forced me to go out and find the money till I exhausted all the venues I had to try to fight for my freedom. I went through 16 lawyers. None of them would take my case. 16 lawyers wouldn't touch my case because they knew that I would just end up with one of their scumbags and then I would get screwed. That was the game, right? 3 of them said they would take my case, but none of them did. I was disposed of. This was done to me on purpose because I was the only opposition, and still am, period. The only opposition out there punching back. In 3 to 5 weeks, 5 dead whales beached along the California coast. Very strange stuff. You see mass extinction events playing out left, right, and center. We see media coming out and telling us over, which is really reprehensible what the media has been doing. I can cover that a little bit better. That friggin' media, I'm not sure how that's going to work. Let's try it anyway. I got to do some adjustments on the fly. One moment, please. Or not. Let's try it anyway.
Ba-ba-nana, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-nana, oh, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-nana, ba-ba-ba-nana, tokari no potatori, kani malo manika no tika, ba-ba-ba-nana, yopla no fu, lapa no no tu.
I'll tell you why in a second. It's a foreign language. And what you got to realize is for the last 70 years, they've been lying to you, telling us like a banana. And they're still there today doing it to you, saying the whales didn't die from Fukushima radiation because it's like a banana. It's like sleeping next to somebody. It's like eating a potato chip. It's like climbing a mountain. It's like flying on an airplane. It's everywhere and it's good for you. This is what they're doing out there to beat down anybody who says Fukushima. Did Fukushima play a factor? Asking a simple question. And the response is shut up. That's their response. Freak out and tell you it's like a banana. No, of course not. It's like a banana. Shut up. This is what they're doing when anybody asks them, are they being genuine and forthcoming? Emaciated polar bears. This is what it should look like a healthy polar bear. So why are most of the polar bears showing up emaciated in the last couple of years? Why are all the animals showing up starved to death? And how did it become a crime? How did it become, like, these 2 pictures, I took these 2 pictures. Both of these starfish are in distress. But the birds would come ashore and there'd be nothing left, and what was left was dying off. I think I'm going to deform starfish. These are pictures I took. Here's The difference between a healthy polar bears and normal polar bears. Here's some of the people that make a living on lying to you. Makes a living by telling you that the reactor on your left is normal. There's no damage. I kid you not. Those same people, right? Those people there make a living telling you that never happened. That's irrelevant. That don't worry about that. Don't ask questions. Don't question them. That's what they're making a living. Most despicable people imaginable. And they're shoved down your children, your friends, and your loved ones' faces. These are just a tiny, tiny handful, but real instigators. Like the buildings blew up. They were sending in the homeless, the destitute, the victims of society. But they're going to tell you it's like a banana and a potato chip and walking in sunshine and getting on airplanes and sleeping next to somebody and climbing mountains is everywhere and is good for you. You should ask the simple question of why are they willing to do that and why are they doing that? What's to be gained? Why should they make a lot of money and why wouldn't they lose their degrees for lying to you? Why doesn't the universities or academic world or blogosphere come out and bludgeon their narrative? I can explain it to you. See the people there? That's not people. That's me in a suit with a couple of different helmets and different pairs of gloves. But I layered myself in there. All of those people, if there was people, would have died. It's the same thing here. All of these people are just me playing around with software. But that's actually, I took the picture. The beach is naked. And I'm trying to demonstrate it doesn't matter if you fill the beach up with people. You're still not going to find those species that should be there. Right? So when you go to those beaches, all of those species over there are missing. That's why all the birds are dying. This is why we see the mass die-off, the mass extinction event. Is because the basis of the food chain has been wiped out. The basis of the carbon sequestering chain has been wiped out. The basis of the oxygen production chain was wiped out. And now we see the downfall of civilizations, the downfall of a planet, the downfall of an ecosystem, the absolute destruction of the other 8 million species, not just humanity, but because like cancer is the last one to show up. Heart, liver, lung, respiratory, pituitary, adrenaline, Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, diabetes, heart, liver, lungs. These all show up long. 1,800 illnesses, autoimmune deficiencies will show up long before cancer. Many of them will be fatal. Most of them will be debilitating and will cause you to liquidate your assets for your friends or your families or your loved ones to try to give them comfort. It's a futile. So we went out and done the whole coastline because Japan is not like Chernobyl. Chernobyl only lasted 10 days allegedly, and but it contaminated 150,000 square miles. Like Chernobyl wasn't very big in context, and I'll show you some of that, but Chernobyl wasn't very big compared to Japan. But sure, once you get an illness from radiation, it's a permanent lifetime illness. It never goes away. It's not like a flu. It's not like broke a bone, you got a cast on it, in a few months you'll be okay. And you get a bit of arthritis when you're older, but you'll be okay. No. This will sequester in your muscles, your organs, and your bones, and it'll irradiate every second, pulse. Right? They try to get you thinking like hours or counts per minute, but every second is pulsing. And it's just so much deception going on. They talk about iodine 131, but there was 10 times more 132, 30 times more 133. That ionizes and radiates your thyroid glands 9 times more effective than iodine 131 that came out of there. But the reactors didn't run on any of that. That's a byproduct. So to have those big numbers would meant you would have 1,000 times more uranium, plutonium. But it's so hard to look for that. Chernobyl has graveyards, but they're not doing that at Fukushima, they're shipping the material north, east, south, and west out of the country. See? Yeah? Like Chernobyl truly was hell on earth. Don't get us wrong. Don't think it wasn't. They used regions to spray over Chernobyl. And that would look like this, where they would fly over. But remember, 600 pilots died. 600 of the helicopter pilots died, yeah? The people on the ground were making their own suits. They were sent out on the roof in increments of 15 seconds to 25 seconds at the worst spots, and then they went home, right? But in Japan, people are being disposed of. Japan is where is nothing but victims. Japan is nothing but homeless and destitute. It's not Harvard, it's not Yale, it's not Berkeley, it's the immigrants who don't speak the language. What made Japan so dangerous, the reason it detonated it.
If they lose power to those, to that reactor or to any other reactors past a few hours from now, you might reach a 3
Mile Island. Now, the reason being, after a couple of hours, but do you realize what happened to that country? Do you understand there was no way to get power back in to something that didn't exist? Right? Those reactors, you couldn't get power back into that because it didn't exist. Right? You can't get power into these reactors because they detonated. There's nowhere to plug it in anyway because the whole country got swept away for 400 kilometers.
And the tops of these pools are 100 feet above ground. And
100 feet above the ground. Now, the buildings are 190 feet high. The top of the fuel pools are over there. You can see the depiction. I can help drive that point home if you like. So the top of the fuel pool would have been about right here. That's the top of the fuel pool, and then there's another fuel pool here. But this is just a cutaway. The reactor is 60 feet underground and 190 feet above ground. It's 25 stories altogether. The reactor cores go right up the center of the building. Right up the center of the building. So there's no center of the building. That's only a 130-foot depiction over there. I know I can squeeze that off where the external laptop is too. So it's not filling up the screen too much, but I don't want my fingers to disappear. And so you have to put up with it whenever I do that. Or not. Not much I can do about it. So the dimensions of the buildings are well known, well established. Everything I'm telling you is authentic. Okay? It's authentic. The numbers are correct. I'm not making mistakes. I'm not misrepresenting it or ground height from the ground up is 58 meters, reactor buildings, right above me. And underground is 18 meters, 6 floors, 60 feet or so, right? So roughly 190 feet up. And the top of the reactor pools are around 110 feet up in the air at least. That's gone. So they were the reactor cores. This is why we're seeing the mass die-offs in the Pacific, throughout the Pacific Rim nations, which includes New Zealand and Australia and everywhere else. And remember, New Zealand lost 5 million birds. 5 million. 5 million. Did they get lost navigation-wise too? Even though pilot whales are called pilot whales because they're fucking really good navigators. Excuse the language. I can't handle all the lies, but that's just me. So a 190-foot building is reactor 3. This is hell on earth. Just that one building. That's hell on earth. It had 5 reactor cores, 100 feet up in the air, 110 feet up in the air, in the pools that don't exist anymore. And this was mixed oxide fuel, MOX. MOX is 2 million times worse than any current reactor on the planet. 2 million times worse. 2 million times worse than any reactor. Now, Japan's reactors were the biggest reactors out there, some of the biggest ones out there. The ones in the Daiichi, the ones that were actually in the accident, these were huge reactors, 150 feet wide, 190 feet high, 60 feet under the ground, and it went kapooey. Is that kapooey or is that kapooey? Look at that. I mean, is that That's like a buoy. No matter how you try to spin it, she's done. The yellow bulb is supposed to be in the center at about 100 feet up in the air, not on the deck. That's the top of the reactor core. It ejected the reactor core out of the building. This one had knocked it right out of the building, probably landed in the Pacific Ocean, large chunks of it, because it's right alongside the ocean. They talk about iodine, but they got to talk about all these other isotopes. They don't bother getting you up to speed on this stuff. Very nasty stuff. Many, many daughters to worry about. And it's not iodine and cesium, while our fission products, they're very bad. Huge autoimmune triggers from these. And just a single one is enough to inflict a cancer 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road. But we're drinking it, breathing it, eating it, washing our food and clothing and everything else in it, brushing our teeth. And we're not trying to find ways to mitigate it because the lawyers are out there having their way, saying it's like a banana and a potato chip. And so the alarm hasn't been raised because this has been going on for 70 years. But that time is now over. But it looks of it, this planet has about a decade before most of life is gone. And that would sound shocking to anybody listening to this who does not understand what's really going on here. But all the signs are real. All the signs are real. And it looked like we took out the ozone over the Antarctic. The Antarctic Ocean is not 2 degrees warmer, it's 54 degrees warmer than it should be. Not 2, but 54. Almost boiling, according to the scientists. If that is true, and it sounds like it's true, that alone is enough to lose the planet. This is from the radiation. It ate the glaciers in British Columbia in the last couple of years. We lost all of our glaciers, like the blue ice, the thick ice, the ice that takes 5,000 years to come back from the radioactive fallout. It doesn't allow ice to crystallize. This is reactor 4, but they told you it was like this on the inside. See? And there's no one to hold them accountable, only me. I'm it. I'm the resistance right here. You're looking at it. We've been going hard at it, and everybody that's supporting us together, well, I shouldn't say me, I should say together, because I don't exist without the help that's been given to me. I can't exist without people supporting me. I'm literally a nobody who done the impossible. I took on the nuclear industry, and not only that, I went out and done the whole coastline of Canada for 260 days, 15,000 miles, and documented it, the pre and post Fukushima pictures, and even got it all up on a website where it's free for everybody. It's up there, all the documentation of the coast of North America, Canada rather. And so if it's happening here and it's all missing here, it has to be missing everywhere else in the Pacific Rim, and it is. This is why we're seeing, because when the birds would come ashore, normally they would have all that food over there, right? The whole ecosystem, not just the birds, but they're a prime example where they would come ashore if they were hungry and couldn't find anchovies or squids or sardines or krill or herring or whatever mass amount of migratory food they were traveling with, because that's what the animals do. They travel, right? So over the last couple of years, we show an extinction event. It's showing up in real time. It's showing up in real time. And you got to think about, they picked up 30 million bags. Right? You know, this was total chaos. 400 kilometers of the coastline of Japan got wiped out. There was many, many nuclear plants, and each plant had multiple reactor cores stored above the buildings. These plants lost power. Look at the enormous energy. Excuse me. Burping when I'm talking. I should lean back when I do that, not forward. Dina. But this was food for thought for everybody. It wiped out the coastline where many nuclear power plants. Now, how would you get power right here? Where are you going to plug it into? Bring me an extension cord. I'm going to plug in something. See? This is a ludicrousness of Japan telling you they're going to get power in there when there's nothing there. Oh, we got power in there. Don't worry about it. If you don't get power in a few hours, they start to melt down. Once that starts, there's no stopping it. So all 15 plants along that coastline, none of them have been restarted because they melted down. And they were severely damaged. Lost inventories were washed out to sea. The inventories of the common spent fuel pools were lost to sea. Remember, there was refineries burning down there where they had 4,500 drums of highly radioactive material burnt out, released into the Pacific and into the environment. This is a story of unbelievable pain, damage, misery, and then the fallout from the reactors dwarfs all of that. Even though this is absolutely mind-boggling what you're looking at. That is mind-boggling. But what's even more mind-boggling is that 4 little buildings, out of that 400 kilometers, 4 buildings have created 30 million one-ton bags of radioactive fallout. That's over 1,000 massive tanks, and radiated the whole country. And this kid only needed one exposure to have their future destroyed. That's all he needed, and that's what they got. There's no way to avoid it. The mass that they're using, the particles we're talking about are 1/10,000th, a millionth of a meter. You can put 2 million of them on the head of a needle. You can't even see them. They lost everything, and then their own government turned on them. Their own government turned their back on them. Their own government stabbed them, destroyed them, because the nuclear industry, which provides 3% of the power on the planet, somehow is more important than the entire planet. Somehow, rather than call it like it is, you're not allowed to do that. You got to pretend it's like a banana and a potato chip and walking in sunshine for 70 years. You're not, even when it's wrecking a country, you're not allowed to call it out. You're not allowed to say nothing about it. You're not allowed to say that's... What do you mean we got to wear a mask? What do you mean radiation means we got to evacuate and leave our community behind? These 5,000 workers, they didn't get a cut and a few stitches. They got radiation. Gamma shine, X-rays, and neutrons, where over a short period of time, their health will fail dramatically because a suit does not protect you from the fuel rod exposure of X-rays and gamma shine and neutron bursts. They melt your organs, right? They affect you in a whole different way. The particles that showed up right away in North America, they estimated Californians were sucking in 360 a day that were actually going into your testis. They estimated there was 1,500 per cubic meter, 9 square feet. But per cubic meter of air, where you stand up and walk around you, 1,500 sulfur peroxide hydrogen buckyballs. This is a phenomenon from salt water on these 9,000 degree Fahrenheit temperature melted cores. And what happens is the sulfur turns into like a little soccer ball and is able to bring in all those particles I was showing you earlier, radioactive daughters of uranium. Everything is a daughter of the uranium-238. Right? We take everything we create is originally from 238. 238 is harmless, but once you put it through a chain reaction, that was game over. But climate alarmists calling for burning down skeptics' homes. These are academics. These are vicious thugs. But look at all the ways they tricked you. Superman, Spider-Man, Captain Adams, Dr. Manhattan. These are all X-Ray, and, Apollo, Captain America. They all got something in common where they're heralds from radiation, power of radiation, which is total fable. Everybody comes in contact with it dies. 40% of the visitors showed. Now, if it shows up, it's a huge exposure. They're dead people walking. That's a death sentence. It's no different than getting AIDS. Except you don't got that stigma that comes with AIDS, right? And AIDS, of course, is transmittable. But it's a death sentence for most people. It's the worst of the worst. get any man-made. This is why we have terrorist laws. This is why we have nuclear repository holding sites and don't have a nuclear repository, because there's no way to contain it. You have to vent it. But the nuclear meltdowns, see, these people, Austrian professor, global warming deniers should be sentenced to death. The people who say that radiation is like a banana and a potato chip and walking in the sunshine like you, and everybody that's in that global, like the solution to global warming is more nuclear. That's their theory. This person and the other ones I just showed you, that's their theory. Get rid of oil, gas, and everything else, coal, and bring in more nuclear. That's their solution. But nuclear, they have to lie for 70 years. Its entire existence is predicated upon you believing the lies you see and the manifestations, connotations of what you're seeing. I got put there for you right now. Superman, you know, all these superheroes or children are fed are all fables in order to make you think radiation was good for you. This was done to make you conceive that radiation was somehow good, right? And then these people, no, we're not plagues. You are plagues. It's a handful of the nuclear industry is the plague. That's global warming on steroids. That's global warming. Hugs for everybody. Hello, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time. Yeah, just eat a banana. You'll be okay, man. And so we live in this weird friggin' world where people like me are shunned and admonished and hated upon. I've been attacked so much, I don't trust anything anymore. I've been just wrecked in every context. Oh, I screwed that up, did I? Let's try that again. I'm just playing around with this shit. Yeah! Trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing. Yeah, we've seen that one, Dana. Let's try this one. Yeah, baby. Bring it, bitch! No! And so it's kind of fun, liven up the show sometimes. We'll do more of that later when I sort things out. But what you got to realize is that what happened, let's finish it out on that. What happened, just have my final 2 cents worth on that. Bring up one more headline, because I get distracted. Pilot whales are navigators. And I come from places where these are the greatest navigators. And so the fact that, where's that spot? Hang on. I got the headline. No, I don't got it there. Even though I know I took it, I just don't see it. Generally, what we're left with is everybody's being lied to and manipulated and deceived, and that the death of the Pacific is accelerating. We show the documentation now for a couple of years straight that it's not like a banana, not like walking in the sunshine. Hugs for everybody. Hugs for Elaine is out there, I know. And Fred, Amter, Stacy, Sensor. I see the trolls are gone crazy. Shani, Amters, Pitbull. Hi, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Hi, LA. Sensor. I see all the savages are loose today, too. And so they're going to come troll us because they're anti-human. They're monsters. They're spineless, heartless, soulless creeps who work for the industry. And they will murder you and me to keep their job, to keep their stupid little tiny world safe. Because they can't get a real job. Their jobs are to victimize people, to attack people, to smear people, to try to humiliate people, and pretend that they're somehow not monsters. They tell their friends they're good people, but they know they're monsters. Nuclear PR firms, academics, and scientists have betrayed us in every step of the way, all day, every day. They show zero remorse, zero compassion. They won't stop lying. And so then it's up to us to deal with what they got done to us, or it's going to be pandemonium. It's going to be chaos. And then everything that they think that they got away with is really going to come back. Hugs for everybody. We'll see everybody tomorrow. Live stream, 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Take care.